And we got to do some awesome behind the scenes work for Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, which, if you haven't seen,
Awesome movie.
you should know. Number one, it's probably going to be very fast paced because usually they want the content to come out around the movie's release, and they also don't want the content to be released too early before the movie drops, right? So we did this like the last 2 weeks. We were working on this the last like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the movie came out. But like Race had said, you kind of just say yes. I feel like my team would have killed me if I said no to working on something like that. My next point with this, which is like there's a lot of layers, as one might imagine. So you'd be working with Sony Entertainment. You'll be working with, it's easier for me to talk about something like The Last of Us, where we had to deal with Neil Druckmann, who was great, but he, and Naughty Dog, the company that made the game. And so, and then you have Craig, the writer, and then you have HBO, right? And so on Spiderverse, on these kinds of projects, there's usually a lot of different groups that you have to manage, but luckily that's more on sort of Joe's area to manage it. However, in this case, he was away. So, his producer and us, just kind of made sure. But we know the drill. So I guess that's the benefit, is that when you're working with a company like that, they kind of know what they like, and you kind of can work that out early on. And so, process-wise, it was kind of, it's quite smooth because we had done this. This is the third time we were doing this, and we know where it gets picky and where it gets nuanced, and that's usually actually on the cut downs, because there's so many in today's era. There's so many assets that get made. Takes me to my third point, which is it's a lot of work, obviously, and it's not necessarily a lot of work from the standpoint of like creatively, because creatively we feel that's where we feel the most comfortable. Like we understand the audience that this is going to. We're fans of it ourselves. It's actually one of the easier kinds of pieces to work on because we like it. It's not the same amount of work that we'd have to put into for a brand that we have know nothing about, right? And so that part's easy, but there's usually there's a lot of moving parts, and there's when are we getting the graphics? When are we getting the footage from Sony, right? Which they're only releasing in pieces. And also the review process can take some time as it goes through multiple parties. It has to go through Joe. Joe has to be happy, then to the agency, then from the agency to Sony, et cetera, et cetera. And so you kind of have to be really organized. And there's, I think, when we did The Last of Us, for example, 60 plus assets